By fourth grade, 67% of fourth graders are behind grade level in reading. Yes, that's like 2/3 of fourth graders. And yet the stats show that if we teach more aligned to the science of reading, 95% of neurotypical kids can learn how to read on grade level. So how is it that we can change this statistic together? Because we can't do it alone. I'm talking all about this today with my dear friend, Amy Neilson from Planning Playtime. Welcome to episode 136 of Educate and Rejuvenate the podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome to Educate and Rejuvenate, the podcast to help you revitalize your teaching, renew your spirit, and reignite your passion for life. I'm your host, Kelsey Sorenson, a former teacher, current homeschool mom, published author, and certified life coach. Whether you are a teacher in a traditional classroom, homeschool from your kitchen table, or anywhere in between, I am on a mission to help you not only survive as an educator, but thrive. Get ready to uplevel your skills with incredible insights from guest experts and discover the missing piece, rejuvenating yourself. Are you ready to both educate and rejuvenate? Let's go. Welcome back to Educate and Rejuvenate, the podcast. This is one of my favorite things that I do here at Educate and Rejuvenate. I love connecting with you in your own time, where I record an episode in my studio and you get to listen to it whenever the timing is right for you, and even picking it based on the topic, whatever you need at that moment. I created this to be a resource for you whenever you need it. And I'm so glad that for many of you, it has been just that. I want to share what a couple of our reviewers have shared with me, because they mean so much to me when I see what you have to say. Because the one thing that I miss and I crave more of, which is why I'm starting to do some of these podcast episodes live, is that I love to connect with you. And when I do record a podcast, it is kind of one way. So I love when I get to hear what you have to share and say about it. Now, here's what Candy368 had to say. She said, "Great podcast. Now I am making it a point to see what habits I need to drop and what I need to add to make myself a happier person." And I love that. I love that this podcast has helped you, Candy368, to be able to do that and to be able to make yourself happier. That's really what this podcast is here to do. It's to help you learn different ways to up-level your teaching, which is what we're focusing on today, but also really up-level your life and rejuvenate yourself as a full person too. And that's what Lynn Bear had to say. She says, "Self-love is something I've struggled with my whole life. It's great to know I'm not alone in this struggle, but now have a tool and framework to support personal growth. Take the time to prioritize yourself." And Lynn Bear, I'm so glad you are doing that by listening to this podcast and being part of the community. And like I mentioned, these reviews mean so much to me. I definitely pour a lot of time and energy into creating the content for this podcast. So if you're enjoying it, it means a lot if you take just a couple of minutes on Apple Podcasts to leave a review. It's really simple. You just go to the main podcast page, the Educate and Rejuvenate podcast, and hit write a review. You just give a little title, type in what the episode or what it can be about, a single episode or just the show as a whole, what it's meant to you, just a sentence or two even, and leave a star rating. And if you take the time to do that, make sure to take a screenshot right before you hit submit so you can show that you wrote a review, and email it to us at hello@educateandrejuvenate.com. And we will even send you a $5 code just for taking the time to do that. And that could be used to claim a free resource, or to apply to a ticket to Educate and Rejuvenate, or to apply to your next renewal if you're already a member of the Educate and Rejuvenate Club, because I just appreciate it so much. And I know you're busy, so I want to reward you for taking the time to leave a review, because again, it means a lot to me. I've been working hard to get some incredible content and amazing guests here on the podcast for you, so you can enjoy it for free whenever you need a little pick-me-up. This podcast is here for you. Okay, so with that, I can't wait to introduce the incredible guest that we have on the podcast today, my dear friend, Amy Neilson. We go way back. In fact, if you listen through to the end of this episode, you'll hear a funny story about how she helped me back in 2017 during a time I was terrified over something that I think is so cute and funny now. It had nothing to do with the episode really, but it was just kind of at the end when we were chatting about how we go way back. But I'm so thrilled to have her on the podcast. And we actually co-hosted this episode together. So it's more of a conversation than an interview, because it was created to air on both my podcast here at Educate and Rejuvenate the podcast, and on Amy's podcast, the Raising Healthy Kid Brains podcast. So if you like what you hear on the show today. Make sure that you follow Amy's as well over at Raising Healthy Kid Brains. She is amazing. Also, if you're attending Educate and Rejuvenate, I want to let you know that she is teaching a session that you'll want to watch for with your general admission ticket. She's teaching a session called A Unique Approach for Teaching Kids How to Read. And just that title, I'm like, I want to hear this session. I want to hear this unique approach. And really, she's talking about combining the power of play with the science of reading, giving kids the buy-in and engagement they need, powered by science-backed tools and strategies to help children become expert readers. I'm like, I can't wait to read that and apply what I learned with my own children, who I'm currently homeschooling. And if you're in the classroom, you can totally apply it in the classroom as well. And Amy, she helps both parents and teachers. She's phenomenal. If you have the Platinum Pass or you're a Educate and Rejuvenate Club member, and we'll talk about this more in the interview, she also has a session she's going to teach about becoming a reading coach. If you're either like a homeschool mom and you're like, I need something to do that I can do at home with my kids, or if you're a teacher and you're kind of looking for a change, that could maybe be something you might be interested in, or even doing it on top of it. If you're like, I want something to do during the summer or whatever. So that'll be a really fun session too. So again, if you don't have a ticket yet to Educate and Rejuvenate, make sure to snag one. I'd love to have you join us there. If you leave a review on the podcast, you could even get that $5 code that you could apply to make your ticket only like $15 to get in for all of the sessions, the keynotes, the workouts. It's a great value, so we'd love to see you there. So before we hop over to the conversation, the episode that Amy and I recorded together, I want to tell you a little bit more about Amy. She is the CEO and lead creator over at Planning Playtime. She helps parents and teachers make learning ridiculously fun and effective. The play-based education movement that she launched has blossomed into a community of over 2 million members all over the world. Her education videos have been viewed over 100 million times, and her preschool and reading curriculums are changing lives every day. Her latest project, the Elite Reading Coach Academy, is training teachers, retired teachers, and moms to build their own successful businesses while waging a war against persistent, disheartening literacy statistics and transforming lives and futures by empowering children to become expert readers. Amy is a mother of 5 of her own creative learners and loves to chat about all things play, learning, brain development, and parenting on her podcast, Raising Healthy Kid Brains. Okay, now let's get to today's podcast. I am so excited to be here with Amy today for our co-hosted episode here on both of our podcasts.
I know, this is so fun. This is my first co-hosted episode, so I'm like feeling kind of fancy today. This is fun.
It is super fun. So today we're kind of talking about a few things. First, we want to talk about kind of the summer and how a lot of us feel like if you've gone through the school year, and this is whether you are like a stay-at-home mom who's teaching your kids at home or you're a teacher in a classroom, like a lot of times we feel during this summer like, oh, I just need to rest now. I need to not think about teaching at all. I just need to focus on my kids and my family and not think about teaching at all. But I feel like sometimes with that, we then aren't quite ready for the school year when it comes up. What are your thoughts about that, Amy?
Oh my goodness. I think summer burnout is like so real. We're like the end of the school year. We call it in my business, and Kara, my business manager, and we always joke every May, it's like Maycember is what she calls it, right? It's just like all the everything in May. And by June, I'm just like, I am so done, right? And so we just want to rest. And I think that rest is like such an important thing. But I have this belief, and now I've heard it on other podcasts like Jay Shetty and people that I trust. Mm-hmm. So I think there's some validity to it. But this idea that resting doesn't always mean just laying around and binge watching your favorite Netflix show, right? Like sometimes that's healthy. But a lot of times rest is actually about just using a different part of our brain or doing something a little bit different. It's not just like trying to numb. I think sometimes we go from resting to numbing instead of it being like just using a different part of us. And I think, when you go to the gym and you have days that you switch, right? Between muscle groups. And I kind of see that for our brain too. And it helps your whole brain be strong and get better, right, when we're switching. So I look at it as that way. Yes, we want some, rest days in there, but we're also like, how do we just use our brain in maybe a little bit different way that's really building and strengthening our brain and helping us feel healthier when we're coming back, if that makes sense.
Yes, that totally makes sense. And I think there's room for both too, because maybe, for example, even this week, we've been putting together our Educate and Rejuvenate conference for the past few months, and we're like less than a month away. And Well, I mean, I guess we're about a month away right now. Probably by the time everybody's listening to this, it'll be less than a month away. But with that, like there were some days that were like, oh, we're doing a lot and I'm switching. I'm doing like a podcast and then I'm preparing content and then we're troubleshooting website issues we've been having with our rebrand and all that. And then I had one day this week where I was like, no, I need to rest. And by that, I mean actually rest. Yeah. So it's really knowing yourself and what you need. Like sometimes, yes, I'm not saying don't rest all summer. Rest in the way you might typically think. Like sometimes maybe it is like taking a long afternoon nap or it is binging that show on Netflix. But we just don't want to do that all summer because I mean, I really kind of think of even what is it? Newton's law of, I should know this. I'm a teacher, but like, you know, something in motion stays in motion, right? So if we're all summer just being a couch potato, like watching Netflix and not keeping our brain engaged in something, then by the time the school year comes around, how do we go from no motion to suddenly like, oh, I need to be running full speed at the beginning of the school year, whether you're running kids to all their things at the beginning of the school year, kind of, there's got May, December you were talking about, and then there's back to school, right? And they're kind of like two sides of the same coin. So if it's like you're just going to go from all out in May to, oh, I'm going to just lay back and then all out again in August. What if instead we try to find some balance all along the way is what I'm thinking.
I love it. I think it's so healthy. One of the things I talk to my people about, right, is too, if you're like feeling burnout, right, and you're getting just really exhausted with what you've been doing, like in teaching specifically, right? One of the best things I encourage people to do is to go learn something. Like when was the last time you went and learned something new, right? Because it, I think, brings back that excitement around learning. And we get so stuck in teaching and we're doing our same routine over and over and over again. But when we stop for just a second and we go learn something ourselves, I think we remember how much fun learning is, and it gets that excitement back inside of us, and then we can carry that excitement about learning to the kids that we're working with, right? Whether they be our own kids or kids we're teaching in a classroom or any of those things. And it's just, I feel like one of the best ways to reinvigorate our brains. And of course, naps are wonderful. Sometimes
they are.
It doesn't happen all the time, but there is the occasional day where I'm like, the very best thing I can do for my children, for my business, for everything today is to go take a 30-minute nap. Or even my team will say, Amy, I think you need to go on a hike today, right? And I do some of my best thinking out on a hike. Yes. And that to me is a version of rest because it's resting from some of the other stuff I do.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I think finding ways to keep learning in the mix with the rest, right? Maybe active rest some days, and sometimes it's just rest, right? But I think having that mix and using our brain and learning and growing is such a way to keep ourselves healthy and be able to rejuvenate like you've talked about. And I think that's so valuable.
Yes, I love what you've been mentioning about wanting to learn something new, because I really think the reason why anybody who's listening to either of our podcasts is doing so is because they love to learn new things. And that's why we teach, right? Because I feel like teachers, they are lifelong learners, whether you're a teacher. And when I use the word teacher, I want to explain, when I use that word, I mean, if you teach in a classroom or you teach your kids at home, because they know some parents are like, oh, I'm not a teacher, but you are. You're teaching your kids things every day. So just want to clarify that. But again, I think we love to learn new things, but sometimes we put off learning new things ourselves to focus on teaching them the new things. And then we get burned out from teaching them the new things. So teaching ourselves a new thing or learning from somebody else, finding that resource that we want to use to learn something or to do something that's been on our heart or our mind for a long time, like starting a side hustle, but maybe you don't even know what you want that to be, or reading a book for fun or for knowledge. Like, I want to learn more about the nervous system. I find that fascinating. Or I want to learn more about, I mean, what? It can be anything. I want to learn more about how to cook something, whatever. Or I want to try some new recipes or whatever it is. Like, just learning something new to feel like this is something for me to grow and improve myself, to educate. And really what I talk about too is a lot with my brand now, especially. We just rebranded to Educate and Rejuvenate. So it's really about educating both the kids and yourself and rejuvenating yourself too. And again, that rejuvenation can also be in learning things too. So that I love talking about this.
I know this is a happy place for me. And I love that this is what you do at your event, because I think it is such a good mix of those things and brings that in the middle of summer, which I think is something so valuable in a way to learn. I love being able to learn from conferences and go and just have exposure and ideas that maybe I don't normally get on my own. And I think sometimes when you set up and you're like, I'm going to go to an event, those are the times I'm like, I literally have set aside this time for myself to go and have this space to just go and be there and learn and get to have that experience. And it just feels like it feels kind of restful somehow because
Yeah.
you're separating yourself from what you're normally doing, right? But then you're also getting that growth because you're getting that I'm learning something new. And anyway, I just think it's one of the really nice, really growth happy things I do for myself during the year. So I love that for summer for our audience.
For sure. And the other thing I love about that is it's that growth in like, oh, I'm learning these things. I'm setting aside that time for myself, being really intentional. Like I am doing this for me. But also when you get there, I feel like that's the initial decision. And then when people get there at this virtual event, because a lot of times you think, oh, in-person events are all about community and you get to meet people. But what I found is the type of people who get drawn to this Educate and Rejuvenate event, because we have both that Educate and Rejuvenate side, everybody there is really wanting to up-level themselves too. So the chat in these conferences, you know, because you've been part of it all 3 years now, I think. It is just like on fire. Everybody there and supporting and uplifting each other. And there's all these side conversations going on. Like somebody's like, oh, I'm going through this or whatever. And people are like chatting with each other. And I've had people say they've met friends through the event, whether they just stay online friends or some of them have actually met in person. One person messaged me a picture like, hey, we drove an hour to meet each other and we met through Educate and Rejuvenate. And I love that. And I love that an event is a way to find your people. If you feel like maybe you don't have what you're looking for in your school or your community or neighborhood, you can find people who are like-minded online. And that's the beauty of the internet is we can meet people from anywhere.
Yeah, I love that too. And I love the messages. So the session that you're having me teach or the general session is about a unique approach to teaching kids to read.
Yes.
And I love that there's just so many cool things to get to talk about. And like you said, I've been able to participate for 3 years, which has been amazing. But what a cool thing to be able to go and learn. I know this is such a concern that so many parents have, right? And I get to talk to parents essentially every day that have this concern. And of course, teachers struggling with it as well, because the stats show that 67% of our fourth graders are falling behind grade level in reading, which is crazy. That's like 2/3 of our kids.
I know.
And the stat I just saw recently too is that 27% of our 12th graders are below proficient in reading. And that just made me sick because I have a kid that just graduated, a 12th grader that just graduated this year. You know, I'm at her graduation ceremony in this enormous building, right? There's between 700 and 800 students graduating from high school in this class, and just looking out of this group of beautiful, beautiful humans moving out into the world and thinking, wow, over a quarter of these kids, you know, according to the statistics, are below proficient in reading, and the impact that has, it's devastating.
Yeah.
And yet the statistics show that if we're doing it right with the right tools and strategies, that 95% of neurotypical kids can learn to read by the end of first grade. And so I'm like, we got to do this.
We need to do it right. Yeah. Let's spread the word.
We have the tools and strategies. Let's get them to everyone so that we can, you know, let's get them to teachers. Let's get them to parents. Let's get them as far and wide as we can so we can all work together to change this, because we have to.
Yeah, we want that statistic to change, right? We want those kids learning how to read, especially where it's shown that they can. And it's just the ways that we can do it. And again, and what I've been telling teachers too is there's no need to feel guilt about ways you might have taught before. I even have things in our resources where I'm like, oh yeah, that we need to update or whatever, because we're learning. It's the thing in life and in teaching reading. As we learn something new, we get better. And but this is an opportunity to do that in a really fun way. And I love that your title is a unique approach to teaching kids to read. I feel like I'm just so intrigued by what you're going to teach in that session, which I don't want you to give it all away today, but I'm sure it's along the lines of what you were just talking about. But
yeah, I think it's really fun because one of the things that I'm known for, I used to think, I don't know, like there's this idea that we're supposed to try to fit in and, you know, whatever. This has never been me. And I think it was partly I get it from my parents. But yeah, I like uniqueness was something very celebrated. And we have a saying in my house with my kids that whatever makes you weird makes you awesome. And so I'm all about unique. Let's do it. Right. But yeah, when you can find something that just works so beautifully well and that works with and taking everything that we have, the most amazing science that we've ever had in the history of the world, right? And so we can take what science is telling us works, right? And those strategies and those principles, and then add this other piece onto it that just up levels it in such a beautiful way. And it just works, and it's so incredible. So I can't wait to share it and talk about it at your event. And maybe we all get to learn something a little bit more about reading, because we've got to do this together. Like one person isn't going to make the difference in those statistics, but if we team up and and we all work together, we can change it, and we have to, right?
Yes. And it is a lot about teaming up and doing it together. And I know you mentioned, because we were chatting a bit before we hit record on this episode, about how you can't do it all alone either. You're like, I am doing everything I can to get these tools to every teacher, every parent, but obviously you can't do it all by yourself. And so I know you've created this awesome certification program where people can learn to be reading coaches, but other than that, you're also teaching about it to people who upgrade their ticket to platinum at Educate and Rejuvenate. You've got a special session about basically learning about becoming a reading coach, right? Can you tell a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So this is a huge thing for me. One of the things I learned, and I learned this from this amazing woman, her name's Eileen. And Eileen was like a pastor for 20 years with her husband. And they were broke, like her husband was driving Uber to survive. But one of the things that she learned was like the way to help more people was to be able to help people help other people, right? And that's the way it's sustainable and you can keep going. And so anyway, so I learned that from her and some other mentors I've had. But this idea that the way to reach more people is to help people reach more people. And so I'm like, okay, how do I do this? How do I reach more kids, right? I need to find people that can reach kids and then find a way to help it be a win for them. And so that it makes sense for them, it makes sense for their family. It helps and blesses their family to go and help and bless other people, right? And so I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's gonna be amazing. So yeah, so we created this incredible program, it's a certification program that's meeting this need. And we're going and we're teaching teachers and parents and people that have the skills and ability to work with children. And we're teaching them we're teaching the science of reading. We're teaching them these skills and strategies and our unique approach, and then giving them the curriculum to do it, and then certifying them. We're also giving them the business side and teaching them exactly how to start a business, because this is something I know how to do, right? And I've got a team.
We've done it. Yeah.
Right. And so combining those two things, this incredible power of using this system and program and unique approach to learning how to read, to teaching kids to read, and then, this business side and teaching them step by step, walking them through how to set up a business and doing both of those things together. And my gosh, we have people that have their wait list full before they've even opened their dates yet. It's amazing, and we're doing it. We're stretching and reaching more people and helping these teachers that are either wanting to earn money on the side or leave the classroom. And we have moms or retirees that are trying to find a way to still help and make a difference in their communities and provide for their families or ease their financial situation or save extra or whatever. It's incredible. And I love that we can feel really good about what we do every morning when we wake up and just feel like, oh my gosh, you're so proud to tell people what you do, right, for a living. And you're paid to do this and change the world. And I'm like, I can preach about this all day. So yeah, I'm going to come to your event and share that information with the people that upgrade your platinum pass and say, oh my gosh, here's this incredible opportunity. And you can actually earn money and help your family while changing this statistic and changing the world. And the more I can help you do that, the more kids you can reach, right? And so this is like my new best strategy for reaching more kids and changing these statistics, which is my goal. We're doing this.
I love it so much. So what I love too is that because you're teaching the general session where you're teaching, okay, this is what everybody needs to know that everybody who attends the event will get. But then when they upgrade to platinum, we have this whole side hustle track where people are going to learn different side hustle things or business if they want to start something. And if people are really interested in the reading side, which we get a lot of people who are like, oh, I love the reading sessions. Those ones tend to be really popular. So they should definitely come to your Platinum Pass session too, where they can learn about maybe that opportunity where if they're in the classroom and they're looking for something different, or they just want to know how to apply it better in their classroom, or they're maybe a homeschool mom and they're like, this could be a really cool opportunity to learn something to do on the side while also learning how to benefit my kids with all these strategies, right? I just feel like it's such a great opportunity for them to learn about this. And especially for those who are like, oh, that sounds like a dream. That sounds amazing. I love it.
It is. I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to do. And it comes with so many benefits, right? The fulfillment and the knowledge you gain yourself. It's so fascinating. Like you love to learn, right? You want to learn about the nervous system, right?
Oh, yeah.
I love learning about the brain. I'm obsessed with my podcast, Raising Healthy Kid Brains, right? I love the neuroscience and all this stuff. I heard someone on my podcast say she was an armchair neuroscientist, and I just thought that was the best expression.
I love it.
Yeah, right? So we love to learn. And so I think learning about how the brain works and how reading looks in the brain. Because now we have these people doing the imaging and they can see exactly what's happening. It's magic, right? So we can learn all about that. And that piece is so fascinating. But then, yes, you can take that and then go change the world with it and feel so good about what you do and still have like more flexibility than you've ever had. You get to pick who you work with in your hours. And I mean, I'm like, how does it get any better than this? I think it's amazing. So I'm so excited to share it, and excited to come to your event and get to talk more about that, because I think it's going to be a really powerful tool. I've watched it changing lives already, and I'm excited to do more, because again, the more that I can help moms and teachers be able to find ways to support their family by doing this, the more kids we can reach overall. And so I call it my win-win-win, right? Like, it helps my team, and it helps your family, and it helps the kids that you're reaching. And so if I can make it a win for all three people, then that's just sustainable and growable, and we can just keep going and going and going
Yes.
until every kid everywhere can read, right? And so that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that's definitely the ultimate goal. And I just love that this like what you're teaching at this event is really going to help get one step closer towards that goal. And so for all of you listening, whether you're on Raising Healthy Kid Brains or Educate and Rejuvenate, the podcast, make sure to grab your ticket. We'll both have a link in our show notes. And then if you want what Amy was talking about, if you want to be able to learn about becoming a reading coach, be sure to upgrade that ticket to Platinum, because you'll not only get that, but you'll get extended access to all the sessions. You'll get the whole side hustle track, where you'll get some general ones about how to start a business or how to do TPT and other different things. So if you're kind of exploring ideas, if you're like, I might want to be a reading coach, or I might want to do this, you'll get all the information there. So be sure to come. It's going to be a great time. And again, there's sessions on everything, not just reading too. We've got it on math, science, social studies, burnout, homeschooling for those of you who are parents who are teaching at home. We've got classroom management. We've really got experts in everything. And it's not to overwhelm you. It's so you can pick what is applicable to you and watch what you need. You don't have to watch everything, but you can. It's kind of like you choose your own adventure.
Yes, which is good. That's very healthy. Yeah. I love that about your virtual event too, because, you know, I've attended quite a few events. We've gone to some events together, right? I think we went to our first TPT conference together years ago, right? But what I love about
oh my gosh, yes, that was when I was terrified to go on an airplane, and you were like, do you remember this? I know I laugh because I've gone on it so many times.
Yes, I know. I think it was so cute. And Kelsey hadn't been on an airplane without your husband, right? For like years and years and years or something. I don't know. Anyway, she was really
years. Yeah.
She's like, can we just go together? I'm like, yes, you betcha we can. And so we went together, and it was so much fun. And then I think, didn't we get stuck in an airport on our way back or something? There was a storm in Dallas.
We did. Yeah. Our flight was canceled. Yeah. Our flight was canceled. Yeah. And then I was totally panicking, and you were so calm and collected, in control. And see, now I've had that happen so many times that I'm good with that now. And at that time, that was before I'd like even found like all the coaching tools and got diagnosed with anxiety and everything that I had. And so it's just really cool when we see how far we've come in life in general, you know?
Yeah. And that we can be there for each other, because the reality is we all have our things where we need someone, which is so good, because that's how we get that connection, right? If none of us ever needed anybody, then we'd just be off loners, and we know that our human bodies and our minds and hearts need connection. And so I love that we can be there for each other in all kinds of different ways. And it's just beautiful. This is what connects us and brings us together. But yeah, I love the piece where at your event that we got a little sidetracked on the airplane thing, but that was really funny. I'm glad you brought it up.
We did. Sorry about that.
Perfect. That's what makes this more fun to listen to. But some of those conferences you go to, and I go to conferences and you're sitting there for 3 days or whatever, and you're like, oh, this really is not something that fits me, right? But you don't want to, you don't know if you can lead, like, where do you go? Anyway, so I love that yours is like, you get to pick and choose the parts that fit you, the parts that you really want to grow in. You get to pick the pieces you want and have access to a wide variety of things, so you can really choose how you want to grow this summer when you're doing your rejuvenating and learning. I think that's so fantastic about this event. So everyone go get your tickets is basically what we're saying, right? To Educate, Rejuvenate 2024.
Yes. Come join Amy and I. We'll both be there.
Yes. It's going to be a party, right? And come see us. And no airplanes involved this time, so everyone's safe, and it'll be amazing. And I can't wait to chat with everyone there.
Yes. And then did you want to share where people can find you? So if they're on my podcast, where can they find you in general? If they're like, oh, wait, I just want to hear more about all the reading things she's talking about or whatever.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. Come find me all over the internet. We're at Planning Playtime is like our core like place where we kind of have all of our stuff come from. So you can come find me at planningplaytime.com. We're on Planning Playtime on Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. And then, of course, we can get you from there to our resources. We're actually getting ready. I haven't even told anyone about this yet, Kelsey, but we are getting ready to launch a whole new, like, I know, can I tell secrets, right?
You can tell a secret.
Her first, right? to a new social media account that we're getting ready to start and launch here shortly that is all about reading. And that's all it is. And it's going to be so incredible.
I love it.
So excited about it. And so every day the content is just all focused around reading, around this mission of helping parents and teachers just have the information they need and just in little tiny bite-sized pieces, a little tiny bit every day to just give you little ideas on how to help your kids read in a really beautiful, structured way and using this like pieces of this unique approach to make it amazing. So anyway, that's coming. But come find it all. Planning Playtime. I'm planningplaytime.com, Planning Playtime on all the social media platforms. And we can get you from there to our reading curriculum, to our reading coaching program, all that kind of stuff right from there.
Awesome. Okay, well, and then I guess if they're listening on your podcast, mine's pretty easy to find everywhere. It's also educateandrejuvenate.com. Educate and Rejuvenate almost everywhere, except we haven't rebranded our TPT yet. I was actually nervous to do that before the back to school because I'm like, if people are looking for stuff. So our TPT is still wife, teacher, mommy. So, but everything else is under Educate and Rejuvenate. The book coming out August 13th is Educate and Rejuvenate. And yeah, that's basically where you can find me.
Amazing. And Kelsey's fantastic. So if you're listening from the Raising Healthy Kid Brains podcast, come check out Kelsey. And I'm excited for your book, Kelsey. We've been talking about this for like, I don't know, a year now or something.
I know.
I'm so excited for you.
It's been over a year and it's coming out now. And yeah, I'll get you the link to the waitlist too, because if you're listening now and you sign up for the waitlist for the book, there's an opportunity to get a ticket to the event that way as well. So I'll get that to you as well. Yeah, I know. It's kind of a little secret fun way.
This like back end.
Yeah. We're sharing all the secrets. We didn't even plan this. This is what happens when you get two friends just chatting and co-hosting.
Well, and here's a funny thing. I don't think we've told everybody, but Kelsey and I are actually like almost neighbors. Which is so funny because we met in like business land. This is what we call it. My kids and my family call it business. There's like my regular life and then there's business land. So Kelsey and I met in business land and then found out that we live like really close to each other. So we actually like get to go to lunch in real life.
Except we don't do it as often as we should. We were just talking about that.
We're planning it. We're doing it soon.
Yes.
It's gonna be great.
It'll be great. Okay, well, thank you, Amy, for agreeing to do this episode together. It was so much fun to just co-host and talk about all the things.
I know. This was so fun, and I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me and letting me come be with you. And I'm super excited for your event, and it was fun to get to chat with you about reading and educating and having a little bit of rest while maybe actively learning a little bit this summer. So I'm excited for everyone to get to figure out their way to do that and invite them to come join us at this event.
If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you're hungry for more, be sure to check out the book that I wrote. It's called Educate and Rejuvenate, a 3-step guide to revitalize your teaching, renew your spirit, and reignite your passion for life. It is scheduled to be released in the summer of 2024. This book takes all the life coaching skills we talk about here on the podcast and puts them together in one easy to understand guide. Plus, when you pre-order, you'll receive a PDF workbook and additional resources to deepen your understanding and application of the concepts we've covered on the book and on this podcast. You won't find these resources anywhere else. Visit the link in the show notes to join the waitlist and be the first to know when the book becomes available for pre-order. Let's continue this journey of growth and rejuvenation together. Until next time.